On today's Minute of the Apes, I sit across from Richard and I hear crunching. I say,
it's the ASMR version.
It makes me want to do more Minute of the Apes.
My crunching?
Yeah, for some reason, because it doesn't sound like the softness of a banana.
We were doing...
Well, what's the problem? What's the problem with Richard crunching? I don't understand. Why that's the
These chips are so good.
Oh, my.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, a daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies. I almost botched it, but I got through it. I'm Todd. I've got Richard and Sean. Hang on. Richard is washing his mouth with beer. Are you good now?
So we're doing like a 30-day challenge at the gym of no alcohol.
What? Yeah, what happened with that?
It's 30 days.
Uh-huh. Do you pick the 30 days? Or do they have to be in a row?
I haven't decided which 30 days they're going to be in a row. But it's 30 days, no alcohol, no bread, no sugar. The penalty is 30 burpees a day for every time you cheat on this diet.
What is a burpee for those of us that don't do burpees?
What? You know what
a burpee is? Come on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no, I'm talking. We have to talk to the people out in the world.
So a burpee is basically dropping down into a push-up, doing a push-up, jumping back up, and clapping your hands overhead.
I call those vomits.
Like a jumping jack. So 30 days.
So is it
30 burpees for every...
Is it every... penalty. Day you cheat or every cheat you cheat? Like if you take a drink, do you have to do 30 burpees?
I have no idea. All I know is that I'm getting so lean doing so many burpees. I don't think there was the point of the challenge, but I'm winning. Screw all those people not drinking. I'm getting super thin because I'm doing 8 million burpees a day.
I'm getting a keg and I'm going to be fit as shit.
Speaking of, can I have another beer, please?
Oh, yeah. Damn.
All right, Sean, while you get my beer, tell me what's going on in this minute.
I love that we're not talking about
We haven't even gotten to the podcast yet. All right. Minute 19, we're starting with Dr. Dixon heading in to talk to Zira and Cornelius and ends with Dixon asking if Zira has a name.
Let's take a listen so I can eat more food.
We mean you no harm. Do you understand? We will not hurt you.
Poor Dr. Milo.
Doctor?
Yes, doctor, you killed him.
No, I didn't. He did. One of your own kind.
He's a gorilla.
Well, look, there's nothing to be afraid of. You see, he's in chains. He's under sedation. Do you understand that?
It should. I've been doing it half my life to humans.
Humans?
I'm a psychiatrist.
Oh, I'm a psychiatrist, too. Do you, have a name?
All right, as of minute 19, we've got a whole planet's worth of humans, 2 living apes, and 1 dead ape.
We're going to take this podcast to a buffet at some point and really annoy the audience.
I really promise we're not going to make food noises all the way through.
Go to the Golden Corral and just eat while we podcast.
All right.
Well, Dixon's had a busy day. He's tested super smart chimps. He's learned they can talk. 1 died. Now he wants to empathize with a chimp over death. What busy day.
What I found really... continuing the theme of really long walks into the cage area.
Yeah.
We do have to spend the first 7 seconds, 8 seconds of this minute with Dixon walking in and walking around and walking into the cage.
Yes.
I find it fascinating that Milo just died, but he feels comfortable going in to console them.
Yeah.
Like after the shock and surprise, they can talk. He has no problem just walking to the cage without a keeper, without any security. I mean, that's a nice kind of breaking the moment of tension between them as if he wants to relate to them. He puts his hands together like he's about to apologize or say something. It was just kind of nice.
I find it interesting that you chose that because I thought these are apes that came in a spaceship. They can dress themselves in their own garments.
And now you know they talk.
They talk. Wouldn't you go in with some kind of guard? Wouldn't you be apprehensive?
Wouldn't you have them restrained or something? Yeah.
Yeah, even though I'm looking at that he wants to be connected to them. This is compelling. I want to be here for your safety. would you still not say, listen, they're here just simply because I don't know. I'm worried.
Let's think of it this way. They put them in a cage next to a depressed gorilla that they had no restraints on. They don't really put value on restraining animals that could potentially be a danger. So, let's remember, this is the universe that has ANSA. These might be people that graduated from the same school that the astronauts graduated from, so they're not the smartest people in the book, despite being the smartest people in the book.
In the cage.
In the cage, yes.
There's a couple of things that I just kind of wonder about. We're bringing back up the anger the chimps, and Zira in particular, has for gorillas. So we're going to have to assume that her frustration, hostility with the gorillas is known to the audience, because otherwise it's just kind of unnecessary. But she definitely is.
It's just like a specious, angry,
kind of.
I don't like gorillas because they're not chimpanzees. If you don't have that background,
but it's not a discussion of class or race as it has been in prior movies. It's just kind of a random hostility.
It would almost been more interesting if they had sent back, because we still don't know exactly how the chimps got back here. If they had sent back a chimpanzee, an orangutan, and a gorilla, and then one of them got killed, so that you could see that all apes were smarter wherever they came from, and not just chimpanzees potentially. And then you get, into the relationship between the different species, and that way you can see, if a gorilla from our time kills a gorilla from the future that's super smart, that brings up different issues. Or if it kills an orangutan or something.
There was something about the gorillas going to war with the mutant humans and, killing themselves in the process, what the destruction that war brings. But to your point, there might have been some nice tension if a gorilla had been a part of this first portion of the movie, so that we have a sense that maybe we're dealing with hostile force, and it would create an antagonistic relationship with the military and the police, and then the Dr. Branton and Dr. Dixon have to break down that wall by finding the sympathetic nature with the chimps versus just being all chimps. I mean, I think that might have been nice to have a gorilla as a part of this initial party.
Especially if you're just going to kill somebody off in the first 18 minutes, you might as well have a gorilla be there or something.
Well, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't do that, because usually what you want to do is put somebody in a situation where there's not compliance. There isn't just, we're on this together. You want somebody, you look back to Taylor. Taylor had Dodge, who was his voice of dissension. You want somebody who is the counterpoint. Now, Milo has done that. Milo wants to be very smart about what he's doing, but it's odd that they didn't have somebody that's completely counter to their position.
I mean, I can almost see if you have a gorilla in there, the gorilla is getting you get him killed by him getting angrier and angrier at the chimps for giving away that they can talk, and he's like starting to then rant around the cage and walk around the cage, and that's when the other gorilla the depressed gorilla gets so mad that this other gorilla is making all this noise, it reaches through and snaps his neck or something like that.
I mean, not to talk poorly about somebody because they died, but
go ahead.
But after he died, I really needed Milo to know what was going on this entire time for me to believe that he could have rescued a ship and got it operational to launch it. I really needed Milo to be the smart astronaut engineer, and that his death would push Zira and Cornelius someplace desperate because they no longer have the person that got them there.
Well, to be fair, you are jumping ahead with knowledge that they don't give us until we get to the Senate committee meetings, that we know that Milo was the one that was the smart one that got that.
Yeah, because at this point, I
agree with what you're saying.
He seemed relatively dumb about what their situation was and kind of had to piece some of it together up to this point. Like right now, just like three fools that got into a ship and the ship took off. What was that? What was that weird?
3 Men and a Baby.
Same in a little lady.
What was that weird show with Ruth Buzzy and the giant dog, and they got locked into a spaceship and they went off and ended up on another planet? It was this kid's Saturday morning
fever dream.
It was a kid's Saturday.
What are you talking about?
It was a kid's Saturday morning cartoon.
What
show.
do you watch a Ruth Buzzy for? I mean, you want to talk about some weird pop culture
Bringing my age. I know. But yeah, the idea of getting into a spaceship and the spaceship just kind of magically taking you someplace where you have adventures. That's kind of where we are at this point. I needed Milo to be a little bit smarter.
So I hadn't thought of this.
I just did a search
and
for Ruth Buzzy and dog, and the first thing that came up is Ruth Buzzy alive. Sorry.
So with my film nerddom,
she is, by the way.
I'm really. Is she really?
Mm-hmm. She's got to be like 172.
171.
171, yeah.
She is... She was born in 1936.
Really?
You're making me do the math.
But that's even surprising because when we knew Ruth Buzzy was in the 70s, so she would only
She's
been
82.
in her she would only been in her 40s, and to me,
she
felt ancient then.
Oh well, this might be an in between, but didn't we talk about actors that always looked old? Once?
No, I don't think we ever did that. Let's do that one.
Okay, we'll talk about actors.
Okay,
but yeah, Ruth Buzzy was an actor that always.
Well, I think it was like the 70s and 60s, and people were always casting middle-aged people as much younger than they were.
Well, this is the Aunt May syndrome, where Aunt May is all dowdy and old, even though she's only 50.
But I think no matter what, having a teenager, because not too long ago I was with one of my daughter's friends, and it came up, how old am I? 52, and they were like, "You're 52? You don't seem that." And I think that youth always sees what is connected to them as younger. But what's perpetuated is whether you may be this, because Ruth Buzzy, at that age probably didn't look any different than we look now in our 40s and 50s, but that's the way it's presented to us. We digress.
I know. Let's bring it back.
Here's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I'm surprised with my film nerddom, and I know that I throw it out there a lot of the times, but usually in a film, what will happen is you have a plot point that changes the landscape of a film.
Right.
And that should have been what is called plot point 1, should have been when Zero spoke.
The Lost Saucer, is that what
The Lost Saucer,
Finally
yes!
found it. I've never seen that show.
I would like to.
It's a Sid and Marty Krofft show, too.
Right, it's got Jim Neighbors in it. Was this the one with Jim Neighbors, or was this the one with
Jim Neighbors was in that,
yeah.
I'd like to apologize to our listeners.
Sorry.
Today is the most disjointed episode you've ever heard in your life. We've gone from Ruth Buzzy to age talk, back to Ruth Buzzy to let's talk about the movie, back to Ruth Buzzy.
For this minute of The Lost Saucer.
I know. Well,
this episode is everywhere. We are going to get to people that look older than they are.
Bring it back to your point about the plot point change that should have happened the previous minute when Zira spoke.
Zira speaking should have been the plot point of the film because it changes the landscape of the film in that they have chimpanzees in their cage that are not chimpanzees. They can speak.
I mean, however, they're human-sized chimpanzees.
Yes, they are.
That should have
clothed chimpanzees.
Set bells off right there. The fact that they are literally as tall as you.
But then we immediately kill a character,
right?
Which, to your point, changes everything,
right?
Milo's death should have been delayed until what they call the pinch, which is about 45 minutes into it.
Yeah,
it should have been something where it was further changing it, but not as dramatic as, because his death doesn't change the world, but it changes their immediate landscape.
We will, without going into future minutes, I think it'd be a nice point later on for us to speculate when would have been a good time for Milo to die.
Right.
No, I'm serious. I'm really, really serious. When we talk about this moment, we think about the way that this, I guess the whole point of Milo dying was to build an association between the doctors, right?
I agree with that, but
is that what it was supposed to do? It was supposed to bring them together and allow.
Yes, and it's also now the plight of Zira and Cornelius becomes more desperate because they don't have anybody else to rely on.
But that could have been done later on.
You're absolutely, and I think that it would have been interesting. However, and I'm without getting into what's coming,
right,
there are moments.
That's the hard part, right? Yeah,
there are moments where Cornelius and Zira's interaction as a couple becomes very, very paramount to the aspect of what the world understands them to be. And it's part of why the world at least listens to them, because they're a couple. If you have Milo in the way, he's a distraction. It's a hard thing to have him in this screenplay from a certain point on.
Well, but Milo being I'm not going to say voice of reason because he's not reasonable. He's just trying to be.
Actually, I think he is.
He's trying to shut everything down.
He's the scientist because we are here. This is the way we need to act. This is what it is.
Back to the idea of using a gorilla to provide some type of counterforce to Zira and Cornelius interacting with people.
Mm-hmm. Milo
could have been kept around a lot longer, which would have given reason later on for other things to happen.
I agree, and
I feel like Milo would have been a reason, whereas when you're dealing with nice Cornelius and Zira that you have up to this point in all the movies, nice Cornelius